Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Landman Season 1's finale had the satisfying death that Taylor Sheridan's Yellowstone Season 5 was missing. The ending of Landman Season 1 was able to beat Taylor Sheridan's Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2 in one major way, through the death of one major character. Even though it marked the end of one of the biggest TV sensations in recent memory, the ending of Yellowstone didn't fully live up to the hype. Many longtime fans found fault with Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2, and one of the most common criticisms was how it handled the deaths of its major characters. None of the show's major deaths were very satisfying, but Landman had no such problem. In contrast to Yellowstone, the ending of Landman Season 1 was one of the Taylor Sheridan show's stronger episodes. It moved quite a few of its converging stories forward, shone a spotlight on some underutilized characters, and left the door wide open for Landman Season 2. One of the things it did best, however, was also exactly what Yellowstone did worse. Landman handled the death of one of its major characters significantly better than Yellowstone did, and it may be proof that Landman could be Taylor Sheridan's next major TV franchise. There were 3 major deaths in Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2. John Dutton Aya, Kevin Costner, Jamie, Wes Bentley, and Sarah Atwood, Dawn Olivieri. Unfortunately, all 3 of their deaths were underwhelming in their own ways. John's death was rushed after Kevin Costner left Yellowstone, so he simply died in his sleep instead of going out fighting. Meanwhile, Jamie's fate in Yellowstone and Beth's revenge was anticlimactically jammed into the end of the show, despite being built up for multiple seasons. Even Sarah's death was more of a shock twist than a fitting end to a villain of her stature. After making fans wait years to see how all of Yellowstone's intriguing plots could be satisfyingly resolved, the show floundered at the last minute. Instead of giving John a warrior's death, he was quickly and messily disposed of to make room for other characters. Instead of giving Beth the satisfaction of killing Jamie, Rip burst in to kill him in mere moments. Instead of letting Sarah stew in her failure to tear down the Duttons, she was shot dead right as she started to realize she was in danger. All of them were lacking in some way, but Taylor Sheridan got to fix those mistakes. Even though all of Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2's major deaths left something to be desired, Landman proved that Taylor Sheridan can still nail a character's demise. When Monty Miller, John Hamm, finally died in Landman, his death didn't feel rushed or anticlimactic. A lot of that was due to Demi Moore and Billy Bob Thornton's tremendous acting, as they were able to convey all the grief and tragedy that Monty's death entailed. For instance, when Cammy fully climbs on top of Monty's lifeless body and begins weeping, she gave the moment an almost uncomfortably heartbreaking quality. The biggest reason Monty's death felt so much more satisfying than John, Jamie, or Sarah's was because Landman did a lot more to earn it than Yellowstone did. Landman spent the entire season foreshadowing Monty's heart problems and establishing how important he was not only to Tex but also as a friend and husband. Then when the moment came, Landman took its time and let the emotions surrounding Monty's death stew for a while. On top of that, Monty's death opened new opportunities for the rest of the cast of Landman's stories, and the entire ordeal worked much better than Yellowstone's major deaths. It's clear that Taylor Sheridan was able to get Landman Season 1 over the finish line better than he could manage with Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2. In fact, now that Yellowstone is over, many viewers may be wondering whether Landman could be the replacement show Sheridan has been searching for. It certainly has a lot going for it. Landman has a star-studded cast, an extremely strong first season that opened a wealth of new possibilities for Season 2, and a story that has enough steam to get to a satisfying conclusion. If Sheridan plays his cards right, Landman could very well be his new franchise. That being said, Landman still has a long way to go before it can really be considered a Yellowstone replacement. One of the biggest advantages Yellowstone had was how easily it could spawn spin-off shows. Any moment in the nearly 150 years that the Dutton family owned the ranch made for a great premise, and it was extremely easy to create a new ancestor that had their own period-specific problems to overcome. Landman could conceivably do a spin-off about Cooper, Jacob Loveland, trying to become an oilman himself, but other than that, there's not much room for growth yet. For the most part, however, the only thing that will definitively answer whether Landman is the new Yellowstone is time. In a few years, Landman may introduce enough new characters and interesting parts of Tommy's backstory to warrant spin-off shows, and it may grow into a franchise unto itself. For now, though, it's impossible to say what the future holds, or if Landman can maintain the momentum its first season built up. On the bright side, no matter what happens, Landman can still be proud that it beat Yellowstone in one key area. The finale of Landman Season 1 marks a pivotal moment in the world of television drama. In an industry where the stakes are high and the suspense is palpable, Landman delivers the kind of closure that Taylor Sheridan's Yellowstone Season 5 was criticized for missing. With a depth that feels both satisfying and necessary, Landman draws its audience in with a raw intensity that brings its central themes of power, legacy, and survival into sharp focus. It's a moment that fans have been waiting for, one that fans of Yellowstone can only envy for its execution, as the two shows share more than just a genre. Both dive deep into the moral complexities of modern-day frontier life. Landman Season 1's finale centers on a world where land, oil, and money are as valuable as life itself. The stakes are always high, and the tension builds to an explosive crescendo, with every decision seemingly leading to a point of no return. The show masterfully navigates the cutthroat dynamics between corporations, local politicians, and ruthless landowners, all of whom are jockeying for power. This is a world where loyalty is fleeting and betrayal is a currency in its own right. In the season's closing moments, the death that concludes the plotline doesn't just feel like a plot device, it's a culmination of the characters' choices and the price they must pay for their sins. It stands in stark contrast to the finale of Yellowstone Season 5, where fans were left unsatisfied and yearning for more. Despite Sheridan's signature style of weaving intricate, character-driven narratives, Yellowstone's final season left viewers feeling as though the stakes weren't properly addressed. The finale, which included long-awaited confrontations and climaxes, somehow lacked the emotional weight needed to justify the story's culmination. Landman, on the other hand, embraces the idea that sometimes death is the only true form of resolution. In its finale, the death is not only necessary for the plot to evolve, but also acts as a mirror to the broader themes of the show. The character who meets their end has spent the entire season operating under the assumption that they could outmaneuver everyone around them. Their belief in their invincibility and ability to control outcomes is ultimately their downfall. It's a perfect moment of poetic justice, highlighting the dangers of hubris and the inevitable consequences of unchecked power. The audience doesn't just feel the death, they understand it. It's earned. One of the reasons Landman succeeds where Yellowstone fell short is the depth with which it explores its characters' motivations. The death in Landman isn't the result of a random act of violence or a fluke of fate. It's the outcome of years of manipulation, deceit, and corruption. The characters' past actions catch up to them, and the audience is forced to confront the uncomfortable reality that in a world built on greed and exploitation, no one is immune from the consequences of their actions.